Hey everybody. As you know, I usually start these podcast episodes with a quote from my guest. However, in this podcast episode, I wanted to point out something kind of wild. My conversation is with Chaotic Good. She's a real estate investor by trade that is also very educated on the market as a whole and has been throwing eggs in different baskets. In this conversation, we talk about many, many different things, just touching the surface of a lot that I know she could dive much deeper on. What I wanted to point out in particular was that she talked about the possibility for bank customers to not be able to get their money and funds out of banks as a result of what's happening in the economy. Less than an hour after this conversation, Bank of America customers ran into that exact problem. Pretty wild. She's very educated, very smart, has a podcast of her own, and I'm really excited to share the conversation with y'all. All right, well, first off, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Yes, this is very exciting. I am happy to have been invited. This is the first time I've gone on another podcast before. I kind of tinker around with my own for my YouTube channel, but so this is really exciting for me.
So I have actually never been able to talk to somebody else that does a podcast on this one. I've gone on a couple others. I had a coach, Adam. I wish I knew his last name because I should recommend him to everybody that's wanted to start. Adam has a coaching podcast, and he's done a few other podcasts in the past. So I've gone on his. But this is my first time being able to talk with somebody who also is running a podcast. I got to check out a couple of your YouTube videos.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. Yeah, I like to do a
So
little bit of
am I?
DD.
Is that what this is? Is this an intervention? Is that what this is? I just like
No, no, this is not an intervention. But but yeah, if you want to start there and tell us about your podcast and you have your at Chaotic Good 42 Twitter handle up, everybody that's listening, go give her a follow. So yeah, if you want to
yeah.
tell us about yourself.
Well, by day, I'm a real estate investor. I work from home while I'm doing all of these things. It's pretty much like what do you call it, the command center, right? So all my stuff is. And I've been kind of following meme stocks now since I feel like I originally heard about it in December of 2020, like over Christmas time. So I've been here for a while, and I started up the podcast as a sort of like help share some of the things that I've learned trading just over the years. Because I haven't been, a super serious trader. I've been day trading since early college, but it kind of like comes and goes in waves. This is the longest I've actually spent like tracking certain stocks. Nothing has gotten me excited quite like meme stocks. There's a lot of drama, a lot of stuff going on, and I feel like we've most of us were planning to be here for a short while, but we stumbled onto something really, really big, and we're kind of just running with it. So I'm not done. Telling everybody, it's been, oh my gosh, 2 years, a little over 2 years now at this point, and I'm not leaving until I feel like I'm done. And we're not done yet. So
We're not done. We're
we're
not
not
done. I
done yet.
agree.
We're not done yet.
I agree. It's funny how common that everyone's story is unique, but it is, oh yeah, I came here, just kind of getting in and out, and then over 2 years later, I'm still here because we're not done fighting, and we kind of stumbled into a war. That's how I kind of put it. Is I came for the squeeze, but I stayed for the war.
Right?
Yeah,
Right? Some
yeah.
of us have been
I
there
couldn't
for a
leave.
while at this point. But some of the other things on my YouTube channel, and I've only made 4 episodes because I've had to like overcome this. I don't want to say like camera shyness necessarily. I'm used to being, on audio only. So the idea of a podcast with video is a little like, oh my gosh. But the last episode that I did was a two-parter, and I feel like it was more to prepare people for what's coming as we start to approach the conditions that are necessary for this kind of squeeze to happen, if it's going to happen. And there's some folks that are pretty high up in banking and finance that are going to be in some really serious trouble. I feel like the big crash this time around, like the Pee Wee's Magic Playhouse word of the day, or whatever the Pee Wee's Magic phrase is rehypothecation. I feel like that's going to be the big elephant in the room this time around. And we haven't even started to see the worst of it yet. I mean, we've seen some, some pretty serious dips in the stock market. But I feel like there's other things that we need to be focused on if we're looking at what is probably going to be a major recession, like worse than 2008. So, but I try to make it fun. Try to make it fun. Otherwise, we're all going to lose our mind. We're all sitting here waiting on the same bus. We got to talk about something. But like, I feel like we just need to watch out because some of this will make you feel a little crazy after a while. Just the layers and layers and layers of like the relationships between the SEC and Wall Street and government agencies, like all like it makes your head spin. The amount of corruption that we just every time you turn over a rock, it's like, oh, there's another one. Oh, there's another one. Like you can't. It's like unbelievable. It's sort of a lot. It seems like a lot of it's not been dealt with since the last crash. It's just like it's still haunting us. The fact that we didn't deal with some of this appropriately back then. So I'm really interested to see how it's going to play out. Get digital money coming. So that's something to be thinking about too. That's right around the corner, right? CBDCs and everybody's got opinions on that. And crypto's had a hard year. No thanks to Sam Bankman-Fried and his shenanigans, it seems like. But I'm looking forward to see what's coming up for us in the next, looks like what, 90 days? We've got some things coming down the pike.
Yeah, yeah, we do. And it's awesome coming on now because it's been a great week or two for AMC here on this short bull rally in SPY. We've been taking full advantage of that and we've had a great run. And on my personal chart, we just had a breakout. So we're coming back to retest it currently as of the end of today. And today is Wednesday, January 18th, everybody, just so you know what I'm talking about if you're listening.
Oh my
And
goodness, we
uh
jumped into it so fast that like everybody still had their socks on. Oh my goodness, what day is today?
yeah, no, I know. I had to look at it. I had to look at it. But there was a lot to go in there. You kind of touched on like the whole market, like, not the whole market, but a lot of what newer retail investors are into, which is not just the meme stocks, but the overall market, what's happening, the corruption inside the market, crypto, which I actually, being young and not rich, I'm like, please stay down, please stay down as long as you can. I want to put more money in it. So
Right?
whenever I see Bitcoin just go up, I'm just like, no, please don't do it yet.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm excited when we see, bears say Bitcoin at 10,000. I'm like, I
yes, I
hope
want that
so. I
so
hope so.
badly. I actually, it was funny. So I had looked at the Bitcoin chart that I plotted like 2 years ago, and I plotted an Elliott wave. I'm not an Elliott wave guy. I really like Wyckoff. It's what I try and study, and it's very difficult, but I try and study that one because I really believe in it. I plotted an Elliott wave on my Bitcoin chart just because, and I went and checked it 2 years later. I should have been following that chart. It is done incredibly
Mhm.
well tracking. Uh, I'm if this is the bottom, I had the bottom coming in at just under 15. And if it goes to like 13 and a half, my Elliott wave gets invalidated and it was not good plotting at all. But so far it's been pretty good. And I was like, dang, I should have been following this chart. I just kind of did it and forgot about Bitcoin. And that's just how I actually think long-term investing. Throw something in that you're going to want to be there for 10 years. If we're talking the Warren Buffett style, just if you can't touch it for 10 minutes or 10 years, it won't matter to you if it's a good investment, which
Well, it's
is
up there with because I'm into gold and silver too. So I'm a silver bug
yes.
on top of everything else. I like to diversify. So I
Hmm.
feel like, it's never good to just go all in into one thing. You want to spread it around a little bit. So it kind of minimizes a little of that risk. I feel like
Absolutely.
Bitcoin's about accumulation, you know. But if you're trying to day trade, crypto is not the place to start, I don't think. It's still the
No, it's
Wild
too
West. It's too
volatile.
risky for most
Yeah,
people. You
it
can't
is.
lose a lot
And
of money that way.
even meme
Um,
stocks are hard to day trade. It's not, they don't move traditionally. I found a lot of success in SPY is where I found my most success after just, you have to watch a chart for months and learn how it behaves, learn its character traits, which is funny because like, but yeah, they do behave, every chart behaves differently and they act in their own sort of way, kind of like people do. And once you're able to figure out, you got to study different books, different methods, so much free information that you're putting out there. Hopefully, I'm putting out some good information.
and all over YouTube. You can really figure out how to do this, and once into it for a while, once you go down the rabbit hole, it just doesn't stop, and it's super fun, super exciting way to try and chase financial freedom, and hopefully you find it. But saying all of this, we have so much we could talk about. Is there a direction you want to go here? I call myself the podcast ape on Twitter at the moment. So if
I
we
like
want to
this
talk
name.
more into AMC, but AMC involves
It's a
everything,
part
so
of
much more than
Beckett.
just
It's
the
part of
squeeze.
Beckett. Have you
Yeah.
been watching Bed Bath and Beyond? Have you been watching it?
So once they went on a going concern, I'm a CPA, so I saw, oh, going concern, they're done. Like it was awesome. I wish you could save them or whatever, but I took it off my watch list. Next thing I know,
Hmm.
it's up 100%, and I'm like,
Oh my
oh,
gosh.
okay, let's put this back on.
So I run a free Discord server just kind of for the group of us that are, we've kind of found like this ragtag team. I like to call us like the Joe's Gym of apes. We're sort of just like this random bunch of people that have come together. Like the Discord is fun to, it's like Cheers, it's fun to be in. But we were talking about it right before it happened. There was a my tell this time around because I've been in Bed Bath and Beyond. I've been trading Bed Bath and Beyond now for, oh my goodness, almost a year. Almost a year. I'm surprised that's the first animal or person that's dove in front of my camera. We're doing really good. It's only been one. Uh, so I've been trading them for almost a year. There were a lot of things behind Bed Bath and Beyond that kind of got put on hold. I feel like what Ryan Cohen had made a plan for them for Bye Bye Baby. Bye Bye Baby is still performing better. It hasn't dipped in the same way that the rest of the home goods side of the brand has. And so having the children's brand is pretty valuable. And I feel like we're gonna see is uh, they're either gonna find a buyer for Bye Bye Baby and sell that separately it's either gonna get they're looking for a buyer right now. What my tell was, I have to go back and pull the date. Peter Schiff says, Bed Bath and Beyond files for bankruptcy, and I've been joking that like the faker the news, the higher the run up, because he was reporting all over the place that, and he wasn't the only one, that as if they had already, he said they filed bankruptcy. That's a hard statement. It's either true or false. You don't. It's like being a little bit pregnant. You didn't like kind of file for bankruptcy. Like either you file for bankruptcy or you didn't. Like there is no. And Peter Schiff has been around for however many decades now. Like he's called the last 12, recessions. Cool. So Peter should know better, right? He's been around for a while.
Mhm.
You either filed for bankruptcy or you didn't. And he says, Bed Bath and Beyond filed for bankruptcy. And I said, no, they did not, Peter. And that was when I picked up some of I'm like, okay, that's a tell. That's a sign. Because that didn't happen, but that's all you saw on TV. You didn't see on that same day that they were, looking for buyers for basically the plan that Ryan Cohen had made for them, but they wanted to like try to refinance and do all of these other things. Like the break glass in case of emergency is to split up the company and sell it off in portions. That's not a place you want to necessarily be in. But like if you buy when it's $1.88 and it goes up 300%, like because of fake bad news, that's kind of like the heart of all meme stocks. I feel like there's all of this, what is it called? Short and distort is the thing.
Yep.
Everything is FUD. You know what I mean? So when and you follow the tickers that closely, you can see patterns. It's not it's chaotic, but it's not complete illogical chaos. There is and are certain things you can look for that will cause wild dips and crazy swings upwards. But I feel like with Bed Bath and Beyond, we probably need to be looking for filings coming through this week because somebody did something. Somebody caused a 4-day run. I looked and I saw somebody on the board got like 42,000, worth of stock. And I'm like, that's not going to cause a 4 or 5 day run up. We have Ryan Cohen tweeting today that like he bought all the stocks. You see the tweet from
Yeah.
today?
Yeah, I
So,
saw that.
oh my gosh. So I'm looking at this like right before we start, and I'm going, okay, guys. So this entire time, I'm like, I'm gonna doodle on Peter Schiff's face because that's my thing now. Every time an analyst is wrong, I doodle some Bart Simpson graffiti on their mugshot from corporate. Uh, I said $20 that Ryan Cohen is probably involved in this. run up situation in some capacity because he's had an interest in Bye Bye Baby. That was part of the whole plan for that company. So like every meme stock has its own soap opera going on, it seems like, and there's a list of probably 2 dozen at this point, 2 dozen solid choices, and it's part of it moves as a basket. I don't have everybody that gets on, oh, the only play is AMC, the only play is GameStop. Like there's like 24 to choose from. You don't want to
Mhm.
YOLO everything all into one place because it's good. I feel like it's going to end up being like whack-a-mole when they start popping off. And I feel like we've just now seen the Bed Bath and Beyond run up is the start of it. Because you notice that it went up 300%, but it's like towing everything else behind it, and that's part of the basket. But stay away from the ETFs that are meme stock ETFs because I noticed there's one, I don't find the name of it, that snuck in like Moderna, and Moderna is not a meme stock, but people are making meme stock ETFs that include some other things that aren't meme stocks. So you can't, they're expecting people to go, oh, that's it's got AMC and GameStop and Bed Bath and Beyond. But like they stuck like petroleum and Moderna in there. We know those aren't meme stocks, but everybody is all of a sudden wanting to capitalize on the name. All of a sudden it's sexy to be a meme stock again after they've been calling us stupid for 2 years, right?
They'll call us stupid again when we run up. It's just how it goes. It's
I mean,
actually,
we're
yeah, it's
either in a
wild.
doomsday cult that wants to drain the entire economy, or we're
Oh my
idiots. I
God,
mean, we can't
that
be
one was on
both, you
Fox.
guys. If we're stupid, we can't drain the economy. If we're draining the economy, what we have is valuable and it's not stupid. So
Yeah,
I
one of my favorite memes that I saw, the daughter Simpson, what's her name? I can't remember. The little daughter Simpson, the smart one, whatever. She
Lisa
Lisa. So the
something. Come
Lisa
on.
where she's pointing to the screen and it's like she's so you're making a good point. That meme. Lisa is pointing to the screen and saying, if a movie theater company and a video game company can crash the economy, maybe it wasn't a good economy to begin with.
There you go. That's exactly
Yeah.
right. It's exactly right. I disagree with like Ken Griffin saying that meme stocks are bad for the economy. I think it was exactly what needed to happen. We have a whole wave of people that are now taking more hands-on time learning about our financial systems, how to manage money, how to invest in stocks, how to properly research companies, and when to make risk-based decisions when, pivoting moments where, you can make quite a bit of money if you watch it, but, not everybody's able to do that. So I feel like everybody just needs to be super careful. But, we have a whole wave of people that suddenly see an opportunity for upwards mobility. And I think that's right now probably the biggest driving factor for everybody still being here. We've seen it happen
Mhm.
before. We know some of the stuff is being suppressed. It's about we've got like a list of like, I feel like there's a list circulating now of like 10 different ways to like force short sellers to close. We know there's been manipulation. We've watched all of these different meme stocks gradually work their way through these different, spin-offs and trackable, investor incentives and all of these other things. We're getting to the point now where like, MMCLP trying to take the company private. We've got stocks trying to delist and relist, and we have the 8 conversion coming up, followed by the reverse split. And I feel like if we're going to see something happen, that's probably, if that doesn't do it, I mean, it probably does need to turn into a legal situation. But I feel like every time we have a big shareholder vote coming up, there's all kinds of crap circulating, all kinds of new conspiracy theories coming out of the blue, and people threatening all kinds of legal action. And I feel like that's what we're all waiting on at this point is what the shareholder vote. Is that it?
Yeah, there's gonna be a shareholder vote. I don't know if the date has been disclosed. I could be wrong, but I don't think it has been
I've been
disclosed
waiting
yet.
for it. I haven't seen it come through yet because I
Yeah.
know we're all on pins and needles. Like this could make or break the situation, the timing of everything coming together. It's not just, Bed Bath and Beyond's got all of this stuff going on at the same time that AMC's got all this stuff going on. And then we've got the cost to borrow increasing to historical highs. We're paying attention to that too. Short interest rate is going up. This is
Yep.
starting to look a whole lot like January 2021 again, you know,
Yep.
and everybody's got to make their own decisions about what they want to do with their portfolio. But I feel like we just have so many things that are layered in our favor at this point, and I'm seeing activity where people are creating meme stock ETFs and all these. Everybody's trying to ride the coattails. Like if it's not valuable, why are you guys doing that? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. There's a ton of companies, and I like the point that you made before that each one of these quote unquote meme stocks have their own story,
Mm-hmm.
which is it's such a good point. Every stock and company has its own story, even outside of these 2 dozen or so that a lot of us pay attention to. And just the ability, like I don't know the Bed Bath and Beyond story. Like I learned while you were talking, I was like, oh well, I didn't know any of this. And
Oh my
um,
goodness. I would
no,
have
yeah,
slowed down a little bit. I'm so sorry.
no, no, you're
I
good,
talk
you're
and talk and
good.
talk and talk, and I just will go off down
That's
a
what we're
little
here
bit.
for. That's what everyone that's been on this podcast is. I'm sorry, I'm going on a rant. Like, no, thank you. That's literally why I'm on this podcast. Is so we can go on rants. And if you mention one thing that a listener hears and like, oh, let me go look into that, and one person can learn and grow, like that's the goal. Obviously,
Yeah.
I want thousands, and maybe one day if I'm lucky and brilliant and hardworking, it would be thousands and maybe a million people that can listen to this and oh wow, I learned something. But for now, it's 1 to 20 or whatever people, and yeah, I want them to learn. I'm glad that you're going down the route you're going down, so don't apologize for that.
It's all connected. It's all connected because it's the same. I've been joking. I need to make a chaotic good ETF where if you were to draw out a Venn diagram, it's like high short interest rate, high fail to deliver rate, high cost to borrow, like right in the middle there. Not every stock is worth, Carvana just took a poison pill, I guess, in the last 48 hours to keep, shareholders from accumulating the majority of the company. So like not every company is going to be friendly to what apes are doing.
Hmm.
So it's important to be careful. I tell everybody like uh when you look at Bed Bath and Beyond and the way that it's connected, it's Ryan Cohen that kind of connects Bed Bath and Beyond to GameStop, which is the original the short squeeze is GameStop. So I think it's important, where he's starting to resurface. Um, there was a standstill agreement that he had with Bed Bath and Beyond about the plan that he had put together for Bye Bye Baby. That the standstill agreement ended on January 4th, and then right shortly afterwards, the stock starts running up. So if I had to guess, I'd say like there's definitely FOMO happening, but
Hmm.
he tweeted today that he's buying all the stocks. Okay, cool. So like I'm expecting to see some filings coming through on not just Bed Bath and Beyond, but probably GameStop, probably AMC. I mean, if he's buying large blocks of stocks, they have to be. I feel like there's a 10-day window of time, if I'm not mistaken, where from the time that he buys, there's 10 days to disclose it if it's a major amount, so that if it's something that can cause. But I feel like when Bed Bath and Beyond board member getting compensated in shares is not going to cause a 4 or 5 day run up. So somebody did something, and we're just waiting to see the filings come through. But all of these things, it's good to know. I feel like everybody's starting to come together. It seems like, it'd be great if GameStop and AMC and everybody could sort of band together and fight against all these hedge funds that are doing things they're not supposed to be doing. But it would be better if we didn't have to go that far. I'm hoping that it doesn't turn into a lengthy legal battle, although I feel like it's going to no matter what. I'm sure we'd all like to see a squeeze before that happened because lawsuits can take forever. But yeah, we've got a lot of activity happening in the next few weeks here. So I'm very excited to see what we've got coming up. I feel like we've got more Melvin capitals floating around out there. We had
Yes.
Melvin was the one that had to shut down over the whole thing. I mean, they're not Melvin is a joke because if they're a type of hedge fund, and I feel like these guys have been burning up so much money trying to withstand this stupid fight with us. I mean,
Yeah, that's what's wild is that there has to be people in this, in my mind. I'm gonna go down my own conspiracy hole here, but it's all I think I'm a pretty logical guy, and if you listen to this podcast, obviously you don't think I'm an idiot at this point. If I got repeat listeners here, so in my mind, why would you ever be involved in this fight unless you were already in it? Because, like you said, right now the cost to borrow an AMC, the max is 400%,
is
and
it 400? Last time I saw it, it was like approaching and just over 300. So I know that
dude,
this is getting to a historical high, like more than the first time this happened.
yes, yeah, this
Yeah.
is who knows what's gonna happen in the future, but as far as the data that we can see, this, yeah, it's right on par. it could do bigger things. I mean, at the end of the day, the market, the system, whoever you want to blame, I mean, the people that run the market, whether it's a bad, good economy, whatever it is, they might take the buy button away again if we get to that point. I'd love to see us get to that point and have that decision be forced upon them again. But
It's one of those things where they're going to do pretty much whatever they have to throttle. If it's going to cause bank runs, if it's going to cause central banks to start buckling, they're not going to let us do that.
I know they won't.
The idea that, like, you know, on paper the math substantiates that the whole world is going to collapse over what's happened with these stocks, but like in reality, they're not going to let a bunch of goonies, take down the whole central banking system. I mean, they're going to pull the plug on us way before we get to that point. And, this has never happened before. So there's a lot of question marks. It's very scary when you're talking about, the amount of money some people have in these stocks. It's a lot for working class and middle class and even upper, some like lower upper class, whatever you want to. When you start making real good money, you break into that tax bracket. There's people, I've seen people posting that they have, hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars into this. I mean, people aren't playing around. I mean, I'm pretty surprised to see that they're still fighting with us. I mean, I feel like there's got to be a bigger, it's not just, because when you look at the stocks that have had failed to deliveries, it's not just meme stocks. Meme stocks are a microcosm. Meme stocks are the worst, but there's also Amazon, there's Tesla, there's more. They've done this on so many stocks that it's just, we're being the loudest. But I feel like the reason why they're kicking the can down the road is not just because of us, but because it's going to unravel a much larger problem, especially within like derivatives. I feel like that's the boogeyman, the man under the bed, is how much everybody owes in derivatives debt right now.
And can you go more into that? The derivatives?
I feel like I was seeing everyone was laughing, like quadrillions of dollars. We talk about like the top dozen major banks, there could quadrillions of dollars in debt. If everybody went down to their bank right now and said, I want to withdraw all my money, the bank would have to shut down. Like, that's part of, so episode 4 is part of what we're talking about right now. Episode 4 of my podcast is going over a scenario where banks decided they were going to shut off electronic access to your money. We're all used to being able to swipe a debit card. Well, if a bank run were to happen, with any number of banks, they can just turn your debit card off. They can just shut off online access to your dashboard, to your bank, So part 1 is basically kind of a montage of all the different times that internet banking has been shut off, either because of a power issue, because of a network issue, because of something happening with the parent company, because of protests. Like, it was, it's pretty lengthy. It's probably about 15, 20 minutes, but it's worth watching because we've had significant events happening with cyber attacks. That's a big one that we all probably need to keep our eyes on because, we've had cyber attacks hitting all of our infrastructure, things like banking, and we've had power stations, food processing plants, oil and gas, have all had hackers, doing things to get into that system. I got a letter in the mail the other day. Hackers got into the EMS system out here in Dallas, Fort Worth, and got everybody's patient information out of the ambulance records.
Oh, whoa. So,
I mean, hacking and all this black hat activity is really, really high. And I feel like Michael Burry says that that's when fraud is at an all-time high, the bubble's about to pop. So alongside all of this, stock market fraud, we also have tons and tons of black hat activity happening. We've had protests that have had, the Canadian trucker protests. Everybody got their bank accounts turned off. I feel like some of the crypto exchanges wouldn't do it though. And if you have crypto in a hard wallet or a cold wallet, then you don't have to worry about the same. It's just one more. It breaks down all the different ways that your accounts could get shut off. And then episode 4, part 2 is all of the things that you need to have in your house in case it does happen, so that like you can float through the situation comfortably and not have to like leave and go to the store and fight people for normal basic necessities. And that's where I talk about having food in your house, having water in your house, first aid supplies, all of your medicals, if you have prescriptions, if you have to take daily medications, silver, a cold wallet with crypto. If for some reason you can't use your debit card, and that's, and all, when we talk about things that could happen, they've completely screwed up the paper dollar at this point. But Janet Yellen came out, sorry, in the last few days and said we got to do something about the debt limit or extraordinary measures, blah blah blah. I mean, we did this dance last year at the same time, and the year before that at the same time. They're just spending so much money. It's got to come from somewhere, guys. Like you can't just send money, to the Ukraine like that every single month and expect there to not be a debt problem at the end. It's going to turn into hyperinflation because what they're going to probably do is just like raise the credit limit that they've got. They're just going to give themselves a debt ceiling increase again. But that's where I feel like turning to crypto is going to be important. I feel like Bitcoin is going to be a major resource going into the situation where, I mean, there's going to be a transition between paper money and CBDCs at some point. I mean, the Federal Reserve came out in, I feel, August of 2021 and announced their intent to start developing a US digital dollar. And then here in the last 6 months, they've started testing it, like the frameworks for how that's going to work with fractional banking. So at some point, we're going to be transitioning from paper money and coinage because we're upside down on it, right? It costs more at this point to print and to mint than it spends for, so they're going to have to do something. Really, we don't have enough gold in our reserves to go back to the gold standard the way that we used to. China, Russia, India, there's a lot of countries that have massive gold reserves and are working on gold-backed stable coins. They're able, like India is a good example, massive gold reserves. They have ATMs that you put in your card, it'll spit out gold coins for you. So I feel like we're going to start seeing all of these precious metal heavy countries sort of rebounding from this recession situation a lot more easily than everybody else. But we have to, we're talking about economically, the U.S. can't do that. We can't just suddenly revert back to the gold standard because we've blown way past the point of no return. We don't have enough gold in our reserves to cover it. So what else is there? I mean, we have to do something, right? So the CBDC is kind of, I feel like, from what I can tell, going to be the escape hatch. We're going to start transitioning into digital currency, but with that could come interruptions, inconveniences. Nothing ever rolls out the way that it should. Everybody's largely already attuned to, like, the hard work's already been done. Everybody's largely grossed out by paper money at this point. And not that that's not justified, but like, I don't know, it seems like COVID was kind of the last nail in the coffin in the last like 2020 to 2022. I mean, I feel like it was like the beginning of, what we're seeing now. Everything seemed really good in the beginning, but they spent too much money.
Printed too much money. That's the issue, is that's the big thing for me. I had a friend who, actually, I'm going to be his best man at his wedding. He just asked me to be, so that's cool.
Oh,
So good friend, very good
congratulations.
friend. Thank you. He's the one that told me to look into Bitcoin in the first place.
Yeah.
And it's now a debate between gold or Bitcoin. And for me, one of the big things about Bitcoin was the fact there's only going to be 21 million of them ever made. And I think it's every 2 years there's a halving of what you receive for producing it, for mining it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's anti-inflationary, versus that was the whole argument with gold. It's anti-inflationary, but we
Yeah.
don't know how much gold is actually out there. Tomorrow they could find more in Africa. They could find more in Canada or Alaska or Russia or wherever. And also the ability of Bitcoin to go from Honduras to El Salvador to somewhere in
Mm-hmm.
Europe to somewhere in Asia with pretty freaking quickly and cost you barely anything. The and you can't confiscate it, which you can't confiscate gold either. So there is, and the Lindy effect of gold, I do like the Lindy effect. If you don't know, if anyone listening doesn't know, is just the longer something's been around, the more likely it is to last. And I do believe in the Lindy effect to an extent. And that's a big argument for gold is that, hey, Bitcoin's been around for less than 2 decades and gold's been here for thousands of years. And
Right.
there's a reason China, Russia, India, all of these countries are stockpiling gold. It's because, well, the world seems to be, who knows, but the world seems to be wanting to go off this US dollar standard for all the reasons you said. We just printed too much money. So what's it going to be? There seems to be a pretty big bet by world governments that it's going to be gold.
Right.
My my hope is that we're actually going to go Bitcoin because I think that just gives more power to the people and to the individuals versus CBDCs or government controlled gold. Well, what's going to stop what happened in Canada from happening somewhere else or what happened in Cyprus where they just, I think it was anyone that had over $50,000 in their bank account was wiped out, down to 50K, just because the government had some debts to pay back. It happened in the early 2000s. And there's examples all over the place where the government just takes your money. And
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin obviously is a learning curve to getting it in the cold wallet and all of that. That seems to be a solution for that, as well as, I mean, they can make owning gold or Bitcoin illegal, but it's going to be difficult to collect that. They did it once with gold in the past, but it Bitcoin does seem to be a way around that, especially as smaller countries and more poor countries that can't do what China's doing. Countries like El Salvador or
Turkey, the lira has already crashed. So I mean, they're dealing with you can only take out a certain amount of money out of the ATM. You can't make cash withdrawals.
Mhm.
So that's the other thing too. If you can only take out X number of dollars every week out of your bank account, if there's limiting on what you can spend for any reason, people have to pay bills and all kinds of other stuff. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of implications that could come, with CBDC is it's sort of a catch-22. Yeah, it's kind of a way to deal with, what's happened with overprinting of money, but it also brings and allows in more government control over what is happening with your bank account. So I feel like it's important to be careful. That's why it's good to diversify. Like you want to have physical silver and crypto and stocks. And I also
Mhm.
am a real estate investor before everything else. So you're not making
Yep.
any more land, so there's
Yep.
all, if you put a little bit into everything, you spread your investments out, you've diversified, you've mitigated some of that risk. Crypto is fun though. I really like DeFi. I feel like DeFi is going to be important if we start looking at heavily restricted banking activity because it operates outside of the central banking system. And it's not that it's not risky because it is risky. It's high, obviously, we know in the last year, crypto is highly risky until it starts, being regulated and treated like a regular security anyways. That's going to bring some stability, but it also, comes with taxes and everything else. But I feel like the the government's ability to touch what you can spend is something that crypto is really gonna fill that need for, I think, for most people, especially where you can load crypto on a debit cards now. Like that's the bridge. The Coinbase debit card lets you spend your crypto, just swipe, and it's an exchange. So not your keys, not your coin, but if you're putting money on there on an exchange, you can swipe a debit card, a Visa debit card, and it spends just like any other, currency. The vendor has no way of knowing if you've got dollars or Ethereum on there, or it's not the most efficient crypto to spend anything on because of the gas fees. But I mean, we're in a period of time where the stuff that we've been doing for decades has gotten stagnant, it's gotten bloated, mismanaged. I mean, there's a natural flow to things where something new has to come in at some point and replace some of these old ways that we've been doing things, just because that's if you're not doing that, something's wrong. You need to be innovating, you need to be creating new things, you need to be trying new things. If you get stagnant, you start falling behind. And but if you're
Mhm.
if you're falling behind, then you're dealing with all of these other problems. You have other countries passing you up, and I feel like that's kind of where we are now. Where we are now. If we don't start innovating, we don't start developing and moving forward with some of these things, and we're going to end up being behind everybody else. We're going to end up in the dark ages. So it's the natural order of things. People want to fight it so hard because they've gotten cushy and complacent. All of these analysts that have been around for decades and decades and decades and just love the way things have been have already been good to them. I feel
Yeah.
like the people that don't want change, there's a reason why they don't want change. It's because the way things have been very good to them. So they don't want things to change because that means, it's instability for them. So I feel like that's why Wall Street's crystal ball is broken. Their motivations are different from ours. And that's what
Yes.
it comes down to. They want things to stay the way that they are because the way that things have been, it's very, very good to all these Wall Street cronies that have been cycling through all these different agencies and hedge funds and all of, it's crazy to me. But we have enough people on the retail investing side to like really start making a difference with some of this stuff. So I think it's important that we banded together in a way that like, hey, we're all trying to be aware of some of these financial things happening because like the opportunities for upwards mobility are getting more and more limited. You have to start being savvy about any of these things if you want to be successful and retire comfortably or early. You have to
Hmm.
be aware of how all these things work. Otherwise, like you're never going to get anywhere if you're just paying a money manager in a suit somewhere to do it for you because their motivations are different from ours. So it's important to be hands-on and be proactive. Like read, you want to read every day. I read every single day for hours, and that's a lot more than most people. But like you want to be reading about something financial related at least for 30 minutes every day. And then by that point, it won't take you very long to start understanding some of this, and some of it is needlessly complex. So, and it's to keep people employed at the place
Yep.
where the suits go every day.
Absolutely. There's a good scene in The Big Short about how they make things extra complex just to convince you you're too dumb to do it. You're too dumb to know it. Come give your money to us and we'll do it better.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And I want to retweet the part where read every day. I can't say that enough. My big goal this year, actually my goals aren't showing up on that whiteboard right there. All you see is a blaring white screen. I'm sorry for that.
No, no,
One of
no.
my big goal is to get 50 books in this year. And I don't even I'm not even saying read financial things every day, although, as someone who's in the stock market, I do. But read something every day. Read every day. Try and get 10, 15 pages of a book in, and you'll some days you just end up doing 50 or 100. And it's crazy how well sharpened your brain stays when you're reading, and you just seem to be on top of everything. I can't retweet that enough. That and exercise, that's just those two things will just keep you so sharp and just whatever your goals are, which obviously this podcast that we're on, and financial goals are a big, big part of what we both want. But whatever your goals are, they keep you going and they keep you on top of everything. And just yeah, I love that part. I love everything you're saying. I just wanted to retweet and emphasize that real quick.
Yes, thank you. No, I mean that's kind of I'm gonna make more episodes. I got to a stopping point where like episode 4, I feel like was so important. I've kind of
Hmm.
hovered on that. I've had some difficulty like trying to figure out where to go from there because we're all still kind of waiting on the same events we've been waiting for since August,
Yeah.
and there's going to be a tipping point where some of these things are going to start kicking off. And I think we've already seen it. I posted a video I have episodes of my podcast, but I like to collect videos for my channel of different meetings, different press conferences, different uh, just informational. So you get a snippet, podcasts are longer, but you get snippets of critical information that you can just
Hmm.
digest really quickly if you're in the car listening on your way to work. You don't have to get like too emotionally invested in anything super long. But the FDIC just had, there was just a big meeting in November where we're talking about, you know, the potential for an oncoming central banking collapse. And we can get all excited about meme stocks all we want, but if we're not prepared for what might happen if your bank account gets shut off, then it's going to be for nothing. So I feel like preparing people for what comes next when, if, if and when they finally do quit fighting. I mean, they can't do this forever. It's gonna happen at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that
Um,
is that is the main thesis.
it's just going to be a matter of when some of these things are going to start buckling because you can't just make, they're trying to maintain a very fragile house of cards with all of these phantom shares that are still trading when they shouldn't be. And it's getting more and
Hmm.
more apparent over time that that's what's happening. Um, when the bubble on it finally pops, we just have to be prepared for chaos and not always the good kind. It could come with, if your bank is self-clearing, they may not just take away your buy button, they may disable your online platform altogether, which has happened before because we've had out banking outages during high AMC run-ups, where I feel like, it's speculative to say that it's a test, but I mean, we've seen it happen where AMC runs up real high and then suddenly a third of the world's internet banking has an outage, has a glitch, and all of these traders can't access their online banking, not just to trade, but like their checking account too.
Hmm.
So, I mean, everybody's just got to be ready for it. If the thing that we want to happen happens, it's going to be like Indiana Jones running from the big boulder, down the hallway.
Yeah,
You have to run past all these booby traps to get out with your money. They're not just going to let you walk away with it like that. They're going to make you run with it.
that's a fantastic analogy. That's so true.
You think they're just going to let you pick up the holy grail and walk out with it without making it difficult, guys? They're going to make you run with it. You're going to have to slide your under get your hat from under the door at the last second too. So like it's going to be not everybody that's been in the play the whole time is going to make it out with all of their money because if stuff starts getting frozen, if stuff starts getting shut off, like that's the end of the 2 years. So everybody should probably just be. That's why I made episode 4, and it's been so relevant that I just kept it that way. But that's the one everybody needs to watch, is because that's all like a list of my best suggestions on how to avoid
Mhm.
all of these things becoming an inconvenience. Like, all of it, you all of a sudden have your account frozen, you need to wait it out 2 weeks while if your bank self clears on stocks and they got themselves into a pickle, now it's affecting their liquidity on the checking account side. If you have to wait it out for a couple of weeks, you want to be able to still function and buy groceries and pay your bills and like all of these different things. I don't expect anybody to come save you if it happens. There's nobody coming to help if it happens. And the whole time they're going to point their finger and say, "We told you not to do this. Meme stocks, meme stocks, meme stocks. You guys caused this. You guys caused this. It serves you right." And, there are going to be a lot of people who probably agree.
That is going to be. We as a human race do a great job of pointing at someone who is just not the villain and making them a villain. It's very simple for us to do that, and the people that are the best at it, unfortunately, are the banks who own the media. Uh, and it's just is what it is. That's one of the crazier things that I've come across throughout this, like just looking at all the crime that's happening, and really the biggest, the thing that makes me the most upset as a CPA who was taught, hey, really what you're looking for when you audit a company is do they have the ability to do something illegal because there's not separation of duties. Oh my God. When I look into what the banks, literally the same people that own the banks, literally also own the media. Also, the people that work at the SEC and the DTCC, well, the former board members or current board members on hedge funds and market makers and banks. And
Yeah,
and even if they're former, this is going right back to the banks after this. Why, if these are your friends, why would you go after your friends? You wouldn't. Like that when you
right.
were talking about earlier, they don't want the system to change, so it's worked out for them. It's really true, and that's been the part for me. It's been like I can't believe this is happening. 'Cause I worked at a big accounting firm, and I wasn't even working as a CPA. I was in the consulting side, and still I wasn't able to choose my own stocks, my 401k. I had four options: safe, little less safe, medium risk, high risk. That was it. That was my only
Yeah.
choices because it would have been a conflict of interest. And it's crazy that the people that literally run the game, there's just no rules for them. It's a wild thing when you really go down this rabbit hole.
Social media has gotten crazy, especially. I feel like there's so much. when you can control that algorithm and what millions and millions of people around the world see, I mean, you can spin the narrative any way you want. I mean, all it takes now to start a rumor that can tank a stock is to make a stock account on Twitter and post a screenshot of something that looks juicy enough for people to retweet and share. And if you buy a bot army, you can pay money to have that pushed even further
Mhm.
around. And the damage that can be done. And I feel like it's hard to regulate that because even the regulators know. The regulators are, and if they hadn't already previously worked for that company or worked for whoever, like I said, just it's a big merry-go-round, and everybody knows everybody. Everybody went to college, college together, or their kids work together now, or like there's so much nepotism. I feel like was it the nepo baby? Is that that's the new catchphrase now?
Well, I haven't heard
Everybody
that one.
the Nepo babies. That's the big thing. All these celebrities are so salty right now about being called Nepo babies. And I forget who it was that mentioned that, like, why are you guys worried about the nepotism happening in Hollywood? You should probably be worried about the nepotism happening in politics and banking and all these finance situations because they do
Mhm.
way more. If somebody's a child of two actors and also ends up an actor, how much damage can they really do? But when you have second and third generation bankers up in Deutsche Bank, up in all of these. I feel like they're the ones that get kind of suicide-y. They have these contagions where I feel like the whistleblower for Deutsche Bank ended up killing himself, and he was a second generation uh, Deutsche Bank executive. His dad also killed himself. Like, so it starts to get weird after a while when you start looking at the relationships some of them have and like how much weird stuff has happened when you get, I mean, I've seen the phrase banking cartel thrown around quite a bit. I mean, some of it sure does look that way. I mean,
Yeah, there's a book that I haven't finished yet called The Creature from Jekyll Island. Charles Payne really likes this book. My brother
mm-hmm,
actually introduced it to me, and then I heard Charles Payne talk about it, and I picked it up. I'm pretty early on in it, and I'm currently reading some other things, but I'm definitely gonna go back to it because just the way that the Federal Reserve was formed in and of itself is so sketchy. They
yeah,
lied every step of the way about why they were even going to Jekyll Island, and there were, you know, people that represented a fourth of the wealth on Earth at the time, and some senator who they literally all like went undercover to get there. And it goes into the reserves that every bank has to send in. It's a percentage of what they get, and why this doesn't actually protect small banks but only big banks. And it
mm-hmm.
the word banking cartel gets brought up, and it's the more that I've dove into it, which again I'm really early on, but the more I've dove into it, the more oh, this is a cartel. Well, you don't step out of line, and if someone else is going to come in and try and disrupt this industry and all of our profits, you're gonna get taken out. It's mafia
Well,
members with MBAs. It is wild, and it does sound like conspiracy until you read, until you start looking into things. It's
the
pretty
number of
scary.
times it happens, how many times can you reasonably explain it? 2014, there was a banking contagion. And I noticed that it was right around the time the Department of Justice wrapped up the whole case on, basically who crashed the market in 2008. And they primarily held JP Morgan Chase responsible for it. But like, as they were getting ready to wrap all that up, all of these bankers suddenly started, jumping off their high rise balconies and all of these other, it was like real weird to the point where like even the mainstream media started picking up on it a little bit. They call it the suicide contagion for bankers. That's Googleable. That's my new favorite. That's Googleable information. But I mean, there's been ways where this has happened, and it's unusual for it to happen around something like a market crash. And we're talking about criminal charges, people going to jail. Although I feel like we probably need to examine why like some of these guys never end up going to jail. The CEO of Wells Fargo, he's never going to go to jail. The dude's so old, like they're never going to put that guy in jail. I mean, it's you have a bunch of monopoly guys running around without any real punishment for anything they
Yeah.
do. Even when they do get in trouble, they get a speeding ticket. Basically, they haggle with the SEC over fines, and then they may not even pay all of what they've been told they need to pay. Or even if they're told they need to pay, Wells Fargo is a great example. Wells Fargo is swimming in fines that are unpaid, going all the way back to like 2016 when they, opened a whole bunch of accounts in people's names without permission. Like
Mhm.
basically, Wells Fargo stole everybody's identity to open bank accounts and charge fees, and they got sued over it. They still haven't paid the fines or anything. They just sit on it and they pay really expensive blue chip attorneys to just delay, 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 delay. And so they owe hundreds of millions of dollars worth of fines that they haven't paid. It's
Yeah,
ridiculous that they're allowed. Some of these guys are allowed to stay open. I mean, at one point, they need to get their license to operate revoked. But when you're talking about somebody like Wells Fargo, you know, we're at a point where major banks have caused so many problems that they should be shut down. But we're talking about, you know, how many people use a bank like that? How many people would suddenly, when you drive down and you see a Wells Fargo location every couple of miles, all of a sudden, it's a little scary to think about what might happen if they were to shut down. That's going to affect a lot of people. And I feel like if
of course.
all of these major banks are having the problem at the same time, you know,
Hmm.
it could potentially affect a lot of people, not just like one particular set of banking customers.
No, I mean it would affect basically everyone. That would be it would be scary if there was a run on all these banks on what would happen. If the rules were followed, everyone should get their money back up to I want to say it's $250,000
Yeah, at
every
least the FDIC
customer.
limit. Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know if that were to happen, there would be some rich people that not even necessarily rich, but richer people that get screwed. But if everyone got 250, that and the middle class poor, like if they got the money back, I'd be okay. Okay, well then all that's going to happen is these banks are going to die because they took major risk and they had to actually pay when that risk didn't turn out well. And now there's going to be different banks that hopefully do things better that come in and take over because they're all small. They're all small banks. The issue is no wait. When the big banks got the bailout, there were I'm gonna fudge these numbers up. It's all from this same book. I want to say there were 30 some small banks that went under that didn't do anything wrong, didn't take these big risks, didn't fudge with mortgages and all these different things, but they went under because the whole economy crashed and that reserve that's supposed to protect banks, it's really just a reserve that goes to protect the big banks. So they had to hold all that money and just pay it to the big banks and say, well, now all of your customers that were using the small bank, they're screwed as well as you are. So it's scary. The reason it's scary it it sucks because it's like, well, the reason it's scary is because you have so many customers, it's going to affect so many people. But at the same time, the reason you have so many customers is because when you cause these issues that the big banks did cause, well, it's not going to hurt your customers. It's going to go hurt everyone else's customers, which makes more people flood to you, which means now you can take more risk because when '08 happens again, well, you're going to be fine because you're going to get bailed out because you've built this banking cartel, which is really exactly how a cartel is supposed to work. It's horrible. The more you look into these things, it's truly terrible and very scary what could happen to the average person.
Yeah, that's kind of why that's what I'm saying. Episode 4 of my podcast is sort of to be that like guidebook, to kind of at least
Hmm.
give people the peace of mind of knowing like it won't necessarily cover you in there's no way to know how this is going to play out. So there's no way to possibly prepare for every single outcome.
Hmm.
We've got a lot of variables, but it will definitely give everybody a really solid baseline to at least have like peace of mind of knowing you've got your basic necessities, that you've got at least a half dozen outcomes prepared for if something does go haywire. I mean, it doesn't take very much for people to start looting stores right now. So if we start seeing banking shut off for any reason,
Yeah,
um, that's going to be the first thing that starts to happen is stores are going to get looted. So
no,
I feel like it's
definitely.
good to just have for everybody to be prepared. I feel like it gives everybody, like I said, that peace of mind of knowing you're like, okay, like you've at least got some portion of this situated and put back in your house that you don't have to think about.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense. And everyone should go listen to that. And can you repeat the podcast, YouTube channel, and names of everything that they should go listen to?
Yes. So everybody can find me just about everywhere. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I'm on YouTube, and it's ChaoticGood 42 is my YouTube channel name. So it's I try to keep it consistent across all my platforms, so I'm easy to find. But yeah, Chaotic Good. You just type in Chaotic Good podcast. But yeah, ChaoticGood 42 is my YouTube channel name. So that's everybody go watch. I've got all kinds of videos, and the FDIC situation. They're talking about that insurance may not be sufficient. That was their big meeting, is what do we do if the FDIC insurance isn't sufficient? So I've got links to all of these different things so everybody can read and listen and learn more about what's happening on that site too.
Amazing.
I try not to
Amazing.
be too much of a doomer. I try not to be too much of a doomer. That's the word that I hear. I'm a doomer. But no, it's, once you kind of get everything situated, then you don't have to think about it. And so it's only a doomer if that's all you're
You're
talking about.
prepared. You're preparing for it.
I feel like a doomsday prepper has gotten to be kind of a dirty word over the years. I think it depends. Like, I'm not talking about putting a bomb shelter in your backyard, but some of those things are good no matter what kind of emergency. You have a bad storm that comes through, you've got food and water put away, you don't have to, no matter what happens, everybody's gonna have bad
Absolutely.
weather. So if you have to use it for an apocalypse, or if you have to use it for a hurricane, it's all multi-purpose. So you're really not that crazy.
No, for sure. And then real quick, 'cause I do have to go, but are there any last words of advice which you think people should read? Anything at all that you would love to leave with the community or people at large, if whoever you want to hear this podcast is listening right now?
Ape's not leaving. Ape's not leaving. Ape's not leaving. Ape's not leaving.
Let's go. Oh, I fucking love it.
Ape's not leaving. That's all. I'm gonna end it on that.
You know